Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Cassie, also known as KnittaCass, and this is my channel where I talk a little bit about what I'm knitting, the patterns I'm envying, and a little bit about what's going on in my life and a spice of mental health. So go ahead and grab a beverage and some knitting and come join me. Today I have my coffee, aka Pepsi, in my new summer sock camp mug. And I'll talk a little more about this later on. All right, so first of all, in my last podcast, I talked a little bit about wanting to finish my Muscleburg hat. And if it wasn't in there, it's because I made two different podcasts that were very similar. And when I did editing, I deleted the most recent one that was kind of not what I wanted it to be. So I do not know which one I had or which version I had mentioned the Muscleburg, but it is a hat. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. And you start knitting it at the top of the hat, which most hat patterns you would start at the cuff. Start at the top of the hat with this nice little cast on, and you can do it a couple different ways. Some people call it a belly button cast on. I'm blanking on the other names. But basically you have a loop of yarn and you're casting stitches in it, almost like a crochet technique, and then you cinch it closed and you've got this nice tiny little center there, and you can knit your hat from there. You do little increases. It is actually a tube, and so you finish your increases and then you just knit straight, which is stockinette stitch. And then when you get to a certain point, depending on your measurements, you start decreasing and do what would be a normal cast off for a hat. Weave in your ends and then you can tuck it right in, and you've got a double layered hat. It can be fun for spring. It's made out of fingering weight, but also can be really good in the winter. I'm going to put it on, but I might have hat hair after. Some people make it so that it droops a little bit in the back. And I also don't like the rolled cuffs. I rarely wear hats, so I wanted to make it pretty simple. So this is made in a colorway that I thought was Unicorn Zombies, but it's actually Unicorn in Space. It is got mostly like a deep blue base and then a bunch of colors at random intervals to create a nice springy hat. All right, so that one's finished, and then I've had these socks on the needles for probably 6 months. I did show them at least in the last podcast. This is a purple yarn, but it's got reds and blues and like different variations of purple. It's from Dragon Horde yarn, and I don't remember the colorway. I had tried to make it with a certain pattern and didn't like the way that it had looked. So I rewound the yarn, put it aside for a while, and then decided to use it because it's very pretty. I wanted to make socks. I decided to do vanilla socks. And then I had this nice Stellina base of the red, and I wanted to use that for my cuffs and my toes because it brings out the red in this colorway. So those are finished. Pretty exciting. I have got to block them and weave in ends, which is my least favorite part of any knitting project. And I believe that's it for finished objects. I do have quite a few whips going on. The one that I'm most excited about is going to look really funny right now. So when I went on the yarn crawl with my sister, I had picked up a book, and it's called Knitted Pirates, Princesses, Witches, Wizards, and Fairies. And in it is a Jack Sparrow pattern. And they can't call it Jack Sparrow because of copyright. So his name is Samuel Crow Pirate. And the dolls in here, you start with just a basic doll. The next step would be to build the hair that goes with it, build the face that goes with it, and the clothes. So right now, mine looks very funny because the construction of this, most stuffed animals that I've made, I would knit in the round so that there's less seaming. This pattern has you like knit little legs and then keep knitting, and you're knitting wider than the body. Then knit the head, come in a little bit, and then seam it all in the back. Just drove me a little crazy. So I was getting a little frustrated. I also overstuffed his stomach, so I'm just deciding to roll with it. And I was getting discouraged, so I decided that I would put Jack Sparrow's face on it and add his little chin dreadlocks so that I could stay motivated to suffer through the dynamics of the pattern that really are not inspiring me. He does have some legs, and my favorite part is the foot. This is my first foot. You can tell because the edges are a little bit rougher, and then I kind of had a smoother transition on the next one. And I'm really impressed because the feet look like a left and a right foot. So they have a foot template. You trace the foot template, and then you put it on something like really heavy cardstock. And what I used, I don't think I have it in here with me, but there is this brand of nail strips. The little package that comes in is like a thick cardboard, and it's not very bendable. And so I decided instead of throwing them away or putting in the recycling bin, they would be perfect for the hard piece that you put in the sole of the foot to give it its shape so that it doesn't get all squishy. You can't technically let them stand, but it does give them that form, so it makes it a little more realistic. So that was my favorite part so far. The hands are going to be really funny. The way they look right now, I can't fathom how they're going to turn into hands, but this will be an interesting journey for you to follow, and hopefully the next time I show you Jack Sparrow, he won't look so strange. And my son is super excited about it. If I remember, I'll put some pictures of him hugging it. And what else do I have? I have washcloths. I don't think I've done another one since my last podcast. I did pick up some new washcloth yarn that I got to make washcloths. I got some really nice summer colorways, and I'm very excited about that. I'm hoping that will inspire me to make more of them. I also have, don't mind my ugly, this was supposed to be a cake of yarn, but on my ball winder, there's a little circle that the angled winder is supposed to be on, and it fell behind it, so it just really went crazy, and I was too frustrated to start over. So this is my very ugly cake, and it's this beautiful colorway called Heartache. It's by Miss Tori Yarns. It's hand-dyed in New England. It's a soft sock yarn base, 75/25. And I've decided to do the String of Hearts pattern, and it is by Maddie. I'm doing her last name from memory, but I think it's Maddie Hobbs. She is in the Love and Stitches membership run by Nitty Natty. And she created her first sock pattern, and everyone cast it on, and I didn't have yarn ready, so I'm going to cast on with that. I did finish the cuff, and I finished, after the cuff, she has one round of straight knitting, and I am ready to start the cable. I'm not sure you can see it from here, but that little sweater there I made, it's actually a bottle cozy. I did it with what's her name? Her podcast is Hilo and Stitch, so I'll try to put her name on the bottom. But this was to help learn how to make a basic raglan sweater, and I wanted to spice it up, and I did a heart cable because hearts and stars are my favorite shapes, and this sock has a line of the heart cables. So what better perfect way to use this beautiful pink, reds, and purple yarn. I guess it's not really red, it's like different shades of pink. It's really not coming up on the screen here, but it's more pink than it's showing. It looks really purple on the screen. So that's going to be the String of Hearts pattern. And then I am knitting a pair of vanilla socks with this yarn, which also is a really ugly cake for the same reason. I had to have my husband come and fix it for me and show me what was going on. So this colorway with the contrast color I bought at the Must Love Yarn store in Vermont, and it is by Woolen and Nosh, and the colorway is Sunfish. It's on their Kiss Sock, well, it says Kiss Sock Kit Corriedale, and it is 75.25. It's Corriedale and nylon, and the colorway is Sunfish. So that's going to be a pair of vanilla socks. And then this one, the cake is slightly better, but still a little iffy. This colorway is called Lichen, and it is by Claudia Hand Painted Yarns. It's made with extra fine merino wool. Colorway is Lichen, and it is it actually doesn't tell me, I don't think. It's made in Virginia. It's fingering weight, but it doesn't tell me if it's just wool or not. So this is going to be a pair of socks for Weston, who is my youngest, and he is the most knit worthy in the family. I have not decided what pattern I'm going to do yet. I'll probably let him pick. And the reason I'm casting on all of these socks at once is because Summer Sock Camp 2021 has officially launched as of yesterday. Today is June 2nd. And is run by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. She is also a sock designer. And last year, when everything was shut down, she thought it would be really neat to do a virtual camp around socks. And she called it Summer Sock Camp. And I think weekly she did lives and videos to check in. She also has tutorials on different sock techniques. And so you have different cabins, and they are based on how you're making your socks. There is a DPN cabin, a 9-inch circular cabin, and what's the other one? There's 4 of them. There's the wild card, which has high sharps and 2 circular needles. Oh, the other one is magic loop. That is something that I want to learn. So I learned last year how to do the 9-inch circulars. Really like them for most socks, but DPNs are still my favorite. But everyone is talking about magic loop, and so that is on my bucket list to try during summer sock camp. You can be in more than one cabin. This year, the cabins have a counselor. So basically, it's grown so big, the summer sock camp, that Kay is going to do her best to be on top of everything, but she recruited help. So she has a counselor in each cabin, and they will help you with some troubleshooting and kind of being on top of the comments and the questions. And during one of the knit nights that I hosted last Friday, I actually met my counselor for Summer Sock Camp DPN cabin. Her name is Natalie of Blush Yarns. I'll try to put a link here. If not, it will be in the description box below my video. And she's pretty fun. If I remember correctly, she lives in Vancouver, Canada, and she is just adorable and sweet. There's some Summer Sock Camp merchandise. Last year she had pins. This year she also has pins. She also has some stitch markers. Can't remember what else. And then she has a shop where she sells t-shirts. There was a bunch of different designs. Tie-dye just really makes me think of camp. I always made a tie-dye shirt when I went away to summer camp. This is her logo for this year, and last year it was slightly different. So I believe the plan is to make a different logo for every sock camp. And then there was a bunch of merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get bags, a whole bunch of different kinds of bags, like a duffel bag, a tote bag, a backpack. And then you can get wine tumblers, water bottles. I think there's different kinds of water bottles. And then some coffee mugs. And that's not all. So this one is my Summer Sock Camp 2021 mug. And I also got, I'm a big fan of tote bags. So I got the summer sock camp tote bag. And with all these things, you can choose your colors, which is pretty fun. I know that somebody in the Love and Stitches membership put her cabin on the back of her t-shirt, which I thought was pretty cool. And so it's really great that Kay has all these options that you can choose to be inclusive and personalize it for yourself. So I am getting all my socks cast on. I'm going to store them in this bag. I will probably use smaller bags in here to keep each sock separate so that the yarn doesn't get mixed up. But this will be a super handy tote to bring to the pool, bring to the lake, bring to the woods. We usually go down to the field and camp out there for a little bit during the summer and have some campfires. We have campfires at my mom's house, and this will just be absolutely perfect. That goes over my acquisitions. I kind of jumped out of order. But I did want to tell you the most disappointing thing that happened to me. So you have seen this sweater a lot. This is the Stardust sweater by Dragon Horde Designs. And it's got this cute little bubble pattern and mock cable in the middle. I'm knitting it with knit picks. I don't know what weight. Worsted weight maybe. DK. And a strand of mohair. I loved how the mohair didn't exactly match and kind of stuck out and made it kind of a retro look. I had knit quite a bit of progress, very proud of myself, tried it on. And then realized that it is very form-fitting. I can wear it, but it's not going to be good for a sweater. It's very tight. I can't wear a shirt underneath it. And, my weight fluctuates up and down, not by a whole lot, but I definitely think that with this fitted form, it would show my belly more than I want to and sometimes be snugger at times. I had debated maybe using it, like just creating a little bit of a sleeve, a little bit longer, but not by much, maybe a little ribbing, and then do some math to expand from where it is. So I thought maybe I could do the math to make it come out a little bit, but then I thought it would change the shape a little too much. So I asked some of the members in the Love and Stitches membership what they thought and got some really good advice, and I decided to frog it. Then the big problem comes. So frogging it, most of the time you just pull, and you get a bunch of yarn, and it's, you pause for a minute and ball the yarn up. However, because it has these bobbles and the construction of the bobbles, it is really, really hard to undo the bobble part. I found myself making knots, making tangles, and sometimes cutting the yarn and thinking I could just tie it back together. And it was a lot of work. I did not do very much frogging and I got frustrated. And this, unfortunately, is a big old tangle. And I am just done. So, what I'm going to do, I am going to cut it, and I'm just going to save this as something to look at and put it in my, I have like a collection of first things that didn't work, and just look at them to remind myself how far I've come. So that is where this poor little sweater is going to go. I do eventually want to knit another one. I do want to do it in the same colors, and I was hoping it'd be ready by fall. But I'm not sure I'm ready to start and put this much effort into it just yet. So it's probably going to hibernate for a while, if you can call it hibernating when it's not on the needles. I don't know. So it's not going to be something I cast on anytime soon. Yarn dyeing. So I dyed a bunch of yarn. Let's see if I can bring it over. This was not shown in my last podcast. So I took a class for the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. It, of course, was a virtual class. It was with Lady Dye Yarns, and she was teaching us how to dye yarn on different bases and different techniques. The technique I had the most difficult time is with the speckle. I have issues with less is more. I don't get that concept. I always think, like, if I add a little more, it'll look better. If I add a little more, it'll look better. And I just never learned that lesson. So this is the ugliest one I have made. And then this one I made for Weston. It is some green and black, and it's made by dip dyeing. But when it was hanging and drying, you know, some of the colors I was a little wishy-washy about, and then I turned them into a hank and really liked it. So I'll be curious to see how they work when they're knitted up. This one, is it this one? Yes, this one, the Lady Dye Yarns lady called for these different colors, said she was going to use a purple, a green, and a pink and call it Mardi Gras. However, I have a really hard time making purples. It's not exactly showing up there, but you get the idea. It's more of a deep blue towards black. Whoops, but it still looks like a cute colorway. So we'll see what I choose to use it for and how that turns out. This one is a variegated, or excuse me, a tonal, and it's like a tonal of different reds. This one is also tonal. It's a tonal of pinks. And most of these do not have names yet. This one was a little bit of tonal with some speckle, and it's got some deep pink, some light pink, and it's got like hints of orange. I like it a lot. This one is a speckled yarn that actually didn't turn out too bad. I hated it when it was hanging up. It's not too bad as a hank. And it's got some reds, whites, and blues, and I'm sure the name will be something about the 4th of July. And these two are made with the same exact colorway, but they have different bases. And it was really cool to see how different bases pick up the dye completely differently. And I know she did that on purpose, which was pretty cool. This is a speckled yarn, which I hated hanging up. It's not too bad caked. It's not my favorite, but it works. This one I love. I don't remember how I dyed it. I think it's variegated. Ooh, excuse me, but I really don't remember. And I can't wait to knit this one up. And I dropped one, of course. And this one is blue and orange, and I call it, of course, Orange. And I am definitely going to make some socks out of this. So the class was really fun. It was all day long. She sent you the yarn, the dyes, the citric acid, the instructions. She also sent you instructions on how to do it with flowers, tea, coffee, I can't remember what else, but a huge packet on different ways to dye yarn. And so that was really great to do. And it was fun, but I don't think it's my cup of tea. I really thought at one point, especially since last summer, I had dyed 2 skeins of yarn. One was blood orange, which was my favorite color, and it looked amazing knit up. I put it in, what the heck was that shawl? Dotted Ray Shawl by Stephen West. And it just looked amazing. And then the other one was called Pride. My daughter had just come out as being gay, and I wanted a color to represent her. It's got basically every color in it, but more of like rolled together. And I haven't chosen what I'm going to do with that yarn yet. So that was fun, and I thought, I want to dye yarn. This is going to be so fun. But there's so many techniques, things to remember. It's a lot of work. I don't think that's in my future at any point, which is fine. And I have a brand new appreciation for yarn dyers, especially the indie yarn dyer patterns. I want to knit the Rocket Tee. I have a really nice orange yarn that is mostly cotton, and I would like to make either the V-neck Rocket Tee, the V-back tee, which has 2 different colors, or the Maya tank. So I will put those in. I'm not sure that I'll do all 3 of them, but I love them all so much. The Rocket Tee is getting a lot of attention right now. The Maya tank is so far my favorite. So stay tuned to see what I end up doing for a summer shirt. Okay, in life, I talked about this a little bit. So I am getting sheep. Actually, I got sheep. So I got sheep last weekend. I got 2 ladies and 1 boy. They are yearlings. One is Alice, one is Daisy, and one is Goliath. They were very skittish at first. I thought maybe they'd be a little more people friendly. I thought they were a little more socialized. Turns out not so much, which is okay. They're still young and still we can train them to be less skittish. So I have been learning how to be patient, which is not my strong suit. So the last couple of days I have gone over to the barn and sat in a chair, or gone out into the barnyard, sat in a chair, and just really stayed still to see if they would come near me. The gentleman Goliath is really interested into my mother-in-law's Katahdins, who are also males, and so they're doing really well. The ladies follow Goliath, so most of the time they will follow him. However, they're very skittish. So if I make a sudden move, even if it's not drastic or loud, they get so rambled up. So at first, they would, as soon as they saw somebody, they'd run. Now, if I make a sudden movement, they run. They have not gotten to the point where they come up to me or let me pet them. Goliath will come up to me, and sometimes I can pet his nose, sometimes not, which is okay, we're getting there. And the girls will come up a couple feet away from me, which is a huge improvement from last weekend. And so I'm hoping that with me continuing to be there and hang out, that they will get used to me enough where they'll come up so I can pet them. And I am super excited about it. We also made a garden in the front yard, a flower bed, which is really great. We've got some wagon wheels on it. If I showed it in last podcast, I apologize, because I'm going to add pictures again. The other thing that we did is I have this area in my yard that when we first moved in had some trees on the back side and some and some flowers on the front side. It looked really intentional. It's got a face in one of the trees, and it was really pretty. I was not into taking care of it. I was overwhelmed with everything else going on. I'm not really a huge flower bed kind of girl. So it got to a point where it was just filling in and looked like just a mess. And I kept being bothered by it, but not knowing how to fix it and being really skittish to do it myself. I had asked my husband to help me, and he would get not frustrated, but our schedules for a while, because I worked on the weekends only and he worked away in Mass, our schedules would not line up correctly for us to be able to take on a big project. So my mom is really into gardening and flower beds and all of that landscapey things. And so she said that she would come up and help me. And when she first looked at it, she said, "Oh boy, this is going to take a couple of days. So we'll get it started, and then we'll make a date for us to work on it again." However, we finished it. My husband, who was a little cautious about me doing it and kind of hesitant to it being changed, worried that he didn't know what I was going to do, thought it was a little bit of a waste of time, he actually came over and helped us out. And the funny thing is, my mom and I were using physics and strength to kind of bend and pull up the trees, well, they weren't trees, they were honeysuckle, and they were pretty deep rooted. So we were using our teamwork and our bodies to kind of bend it different ways to make it weak and yank it out. We did probably a third of that area by hand. We did have pruners to get down to the roots that were there and to cut some of the flower weed things. Then my husband decides, hey, this is looking pretty cool, I'm going to come help. And he brings the power tools. So one day we got it all cleaned out. It's got some trees on the backside, mostly lilacs. We found a pine tree that was little and growing, and we found a little tiny maple tree. So we'll see if they keep going. The honeysuckle is an invasive plant, so it took over everywhere. It probably started as a tiny bush before we moved in, and it just was everywhere, and it was a hot mess. It was competing with the lilacs that I wanted to grow there, and it was making it so the lilacs were reaching out, because they will bend, like most flowers and plants, they will bend to get the most sunlight. And so they were bending outward. So it looks a little funny right now. Hopefully depending on how old they are, some of them might start coming back a little, but the bottom part of the trunk's not going to change, so they might end up looking kind of funky. But they do seem very happy that they're not fighting for the nutrients or the light anymore. So there's the trees on the back side, and then the front side is still covered with leaves. I haven't raked it out yet because I'm not sure what I want to do with it. I am picturing some sort of flower bed with like some little figures or something in there. I'm not really a big gnome fan, so it's not going to be anything like that. And I might not even do it till next year because I have some other projects that I want to work on around the house. My husband and I are doing some dreaming about how we want things to look, and some of the things that have just been hanging out, we are getting cleaned up and spruced up. And my husband was really proud that you can see it from the road, which meant a lot to me with his hesitancy in the beginning of the project. My garden is doing well. My kids are growing, of course. It's almost summertime, and we are all so excited to have this school year behind us. It was really weird with the hybrid schedule that they were doing to protect people from COVID. And the days that they were supposed to have online schooling, I was at work, and I'm pretty sure they didn't do as much as they should have. And I'm really working with my therapist a lot on the give-a-dams and where to really put my focus. And some of those battles were not worth all the effort I wanted to put into them. I was a little worried at first that people were going to think I was a bad mom, but there's other things that I do for my kids that are good. They get fed, they have shelter, they're loved, they get special time. So if I don't make them do their online schooling consistently, so be it. Hopefully next year it'll be all in person and back to normal, because I think this year has been really hard on the kids. And I think it's been really hard for all kids and all parents. It's just been a strange 2 years. Last year school closed early and was kind of wing it based, at least here. This year was more of a regimented schedule, but not normal, and there was less social time, less interactions in the classroom, a lot more expected independence without really teaching them how to do it ahead of time. And so there was a lot of frustrations that we will all be glad to just let it go. I believe that's everything I have for you. So now the mental health piece. So this is something that I look forward to trying, and it is called grounding or earthing. And the main idea is to be outside and to be barefoot and to just be in nature, immerse yourself in nature, even if it's not in the woods, like that doesn't matter, just your feet on the ground, barefoot. And what this does, and it's suggested that you take a walk while doing it, but even if you were standing up or sitting with your feet on the ground, you will still get the benefits. And what it does is it brings your sensory input neurological system to remember a time when you were happy and free and younger and just not worrying about a lot of the day-to-day stresses. And it can help with pain, it can help with depression, it can help with anxiety, it helps with healing. There's a whole bunch of things, and that is just a few that I remember. So I wanted to tell you off of the phone the picture and the words that I had taken a snapshot of and said, I'm going to try that this week. And I think that I'm going to include that as my mental health piece. And by the way, my sister is wicked cool. We get along great. We're kind of the opposite. So she's very chill and laid back and doesn't mind being barefoot. And I hate being barefoot. I don't mind sitting in a chair and having my feet on the grass. I do not like walking barefoot. I do not like beach sand. So this will be a stretch for me, but I know that it's going to be worth it. So this is the benefits that I saw when I looked it up. So it reduces inflammation. Inflammation's bad for your body. It creates a stress response and it increases pain. Reduces chronic pain, speeds your healing, improves your sleep. Sleep is very important for your mental well-being. Sleep. Shortens your recovery time, which kind of goes with healing. It increases your energy. Who doesn't need more energy? Normalizes your biological rhythms. So this is also something that mostly affects sleep, but also affects your awake night schedule, routines. Can help balance stress a little bit if your biological systems are regulated, like your rhythms are regulated. And it can also help reduce stress. Normalizes your blood pressure and blood flow, relieving muscle tension and headaches. Who knew? Improving menstrual and female hormone systems. I did not know this. I am curious to find out if this works. I do not get my period anymore. I had my uterus removed a couple years ago. Actually, it's almost 3 years ago. And so I'm going to have to ask maybe my daughter and my sister and a couple of close friends if they try this, if they think it helped. Reducing jet lag, helping support adrenal health, also plays with your hormones, which helps regulate your body. I believe that everything I listed there makes it very enticing to try. So I'm going to try grounding, and if you're watching this episode, I encourage you to try grounding or earthing, and let me know below if you tried it and if you think that it helped. That is all for today. I'll see you shortly, hopefully. Oh, wait, I forgot to show you. These are my new earrings from the lovely Baslo Designs, who is, of course, my sister. She makes guitar string earrings, and I just thought these danglies would be fun for summer. Now that is officially it for now. I hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye!